In the rugged mountains of the Old West, where the wind whispered through the pines and the rivers pulsed like silver veins through the land, lay the small settlement of Eagle's Peak. It was the year 1875, and the people here lived hard, by hunting, mining, and the occasional cattle drives. The sun burned mercilessly during the day, and at night the cold crept into the bones. In this county, where law and morality were often dictated by the strong, a story unfolded that is still whispered about in the saloons to this day. The mountain man was named Silas Thorne. He was a giant of a man, with a beard as wild as the forest in which he lived. Silas had retreated to the mountains years earlier, after the Civil War, where he had served as a sharpshooter. He hunted bears, prospected for gold, and avoided the company of people. The folks in Eagle's Peak called him the Hermit of the Mountains. He came into town only rarely to fetch supplies, and when he did, he spoke no more words than necessary. His eyes, gray like storm clouds, betrayed a past full of violence and loss. Then there was Eliza Hawthorne, the bold maid. At 35 years old, she was considered untouchable in the eyes of the small-town residents. A woman who had never married, who lived in a little house on the edge of the settlement and earned her living as a seamstress and herbalist. The women whispered about her, too proud, too standoffish. The men laughed, who would want such a spitfire? Eliza had sharp features, dark hair that she tied back strictly, and a gaze that looked right through a person. She assisted at births, nursed the sick, and knew the secrets of the mountains better than most. But deep inside her burned a fire that no one suspected. It all began on a stormy autumn day. The sheriff of Eagle's Peak, a burly man named Harlan Buck, had a problem. His deputy had been killed in a shootout with bandits, and the county was in turmoil. Rumors were spreading. A gang of outlaws, led by the notorious Black Jack Riley, planned to raid the gold mine on the slope. The mine was the lifeblood of the town. Without it, Eagle's Peak would die. In their desperation, the town council gathered the residents in the old church. "We need strong men," Harlan bellowed. "But our boys are too young or too cowardly. Silas Thorne is the only one who can save us. He knows the mountains like the back of his hand and shoots like the devil himself." Silas, who happened to be in town selling pelts, was dragged into the church. "I'm no hero," he growled. "Leave me alone." But the crowd was hysterical. They threatened him. If he didn't help, they would burn his cabin and brand him a coward. Yet Silas remained stubborn. "I don't fight for you." Then came the crazy plan. Reverend Mills, a pious but cunning man, remembered an old law from pioneer times. In an emergency, the town council can force marriages to strengthen the community. The idea was absurd, but in their panic they seized it. "Silas needs a wife to tie him down," someone shouted. "And Eliza is the only one strong enough to tame him." Eliza, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, jumped up. "This is madness. I won't marry any wild man." But the crowd was relentless. They surrounded her, threatening exclusion from the community. Harlan Buck grinned, "Either you marry, or we run both of you out of town. Silas, you stay and fight for us. Eliza, you make sure he does." So the wedding was arranged, a forced marriage under the barrel of a gun. The next day, before the church altar, Silas and Eliza stood. He in his tattered leather shirt, she in a simple dress. The reverend muttered the words, and the rings were exchanged. The town cheered as if they had won a victory. But in Silas's eyes burned rage, and Eliza clenched her teeth. They moved into Silas's cabin high in the mountains. It was a primitive home, one room with a bed of furs, a stove, and shelves full of traps and rifles. Silas barely spoke. "This isn't my will," he grumbled on the first evening. "Stay out of my way." Eliza only nodded. Likewise. The first days were tense. Silas hunted, Eliza cooked and gathered herbs. But gradually they got to know each other. Silas told of his war trauma, how he had lost friends and never wanted to kill again. Eliza confessed that as a young girl she had fled from the East, from a brutal father. "I learned to survive alone," she said. A fragile bond grew, yet the threat of the bandits loomed. Down in the town, the men prepared. Harlan Buck sent messengers. "Silas, come down and help us." But Silas ignored them. Instead, he enjoyed the peace with Eliza. They shared meals, even laughed over old stories. One evening, by candlelight, they kissed for the first time. Maybe it was fate, Silas whispered. But fate had other plans. One night they heard riders. Black Jack Riley and his gang had struck, not at the mine, but at the town. They had raided the saloon, killed Harlan Buck, and taken hostages. A messenger reached the cabin. "The town is burning. They're demanding Silas." Silas loaded his rifle. "I have to go." Eliza held him back. "Not alone. I'm coming with you." He laughed bitterly. "You? A woman?" But in her eyes he saw something new, determination that frightened him. What no one knew, Eliza Hawthorne was not who she seemed. Years ago, when she fled, she had joined a gang, not as a victim, but as a leader. She was the Shadow Queen, a legendary outlaw woman who robbed banks and punished the rich. She had hidden in Eagle's Peak to start a new life. But the forced marriage had rekindled old fires. While Silas rode to the town, Eliza slipped into the mountains. She knew secret paths that Silas had never discovered. In a hidden cave she kept her old arsenal, dynamite, revolvers, and a plan she had forged for years. Black Jack Riley was her old rival. He had betrayed her gang and nearly killed her. In the town there was chaos. The bandits held the church, with women and children as hostages. Silas sneaked up, shot 2 guards. "Let them go," he roared. Black Jack laughed, "The mountain man. Come here, and we'll talk." But then the unexpected happened. Out of nowhere, the slope above the town exploded. Dynamite charges that Eliza had placed tore rocks loose and blocked the bandits' escape route. Smoke and dust filled the air. Eliza rode in, masked with a cloth, on a stolen horse. She fired precise shots, hitting Black Jack's men one after another. The townspeople stared in disbelief. "Who is that?" Silas, fighting, recognized the eyes beneath the mask. "Eliza?" She stormed into the church, where Black Jack threatened the hostages. "This ends now, Jack," she called. He grinned, "The Shadow Queen. You're alive." A duel erupted, revolvers cracked, bullets whistled. Eliza was faster. She hit him in the shoulder, disarmed him. The bandit surrendered. The town was saved. But when Eliza removed the mask, the crowd gasped. "The old maid? An outlaw?" Silas stepped forward, shocked but proud. "You saved us all." The town council gathered. Reverend Mills stammered, This is impossible." Eliza stood there, unflinching. "You forced me to marry to save your skins. Now see what an old maid can do. I'm no maiden anymore, I'm a legend." The news spread like wildfire through the county. Newspapers printed, "Mountain Man's Bride Defeats Gang." Eagle's Peak became famous, tourists came, the mine boomed. Silas and Eliza stayed together, not forced, but by choice. They built a ranch, helped the poor, and became heroes. But Eliza had one final secret. That night she had not only defeated the bandits, she had stolen gold from the mine that the corrupt Harlan Buck had hoarded, and distributed it to the widows. That shook the county the most, a woman who broke the law to create justice.